and the wisdom that they're going to share with us today. So thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. I want to thank ViiV for their support for putting this together. This session is a very simple session. It's about choice and how important choice is. It's a very simple concept, but it's a powerful concept, and you'll hear this over and over again throughout the panel. And we've heard it actually across several different panels over the last few days. That people want choice. Young women want choice. Sex workers want choice. MSM want choice. People living with HIV want choice. And having one option is not enough. But when you have multiple options, when you have real choice, and it's not just choice for the sake of choice, but it's choice for things that actually work for people's lives. That's what we're going to talk about. Data shows that when people have choice, programs work better, uptake improves, and most of all, dignity is protected. And I want to come back to that point around dignity. But we know that the opposite is also true. When you don't have choice or when you limit choice, programs falter, people don't come, and access is ultimately denied. And that's what we all have to fight against. So we're going to hear a lot about the choice framework, something that is really exciting, and I know our panelists will talk about it. It's so much more than just a people-centered approach. The choice framework is something that is about autonomy, is it about flexibility and ultimately accountability for the programs and people that we all seek to serve. So I'm going to stop talking so that we can hear from all of the wonderful panelists who have the answers today. But first, let me invite Sibongile from ViiV to give us some opening remarks, and then we'll move to the panel. Sibongile, you're welcome.
Thank you and good afternoon to everybody. I am Sibongile and I lead the Africa Medical Affairs Division for ViiV Healthcare. I'm actually honored to stand here and talk at this session because for me, I'm not standing here just as a ViiV employee. I'm standing here as a medical doctor talking to both medical doctors and non-medical doctors. So there's something important about choice here. And choice is not about just availability of drug. It's about shared decision making. And what do I mean when I say shared decision making? This comes back to the notion of what we come back and we look. Doctor doesn't know best. The shared decision making and the discussions, especially the open discussions, are what will be very much instrumental in driving the importance of choice. If we're going to look at shared decision making, then we are ensuring that the choice of medicine that the person who needs it gets, it fits their lifestyle. It works for them, for their quality of life. And it also it's acceptable for them in terms of how it is presented to them. So I think it's about time that we shift the mindset from doctor knows best to shared decision making, and also acknowledging that there's the wonderful triple A my colleague has come up with that I think really resonates and we should all take home with us. When we talk about choice, the first A is access. How do we ensure access? Affordability. But when we've got access and affordability, what challenges do we face? And that's acceptability. So let's learn to ties HIV prevention. Let's learn to destigmatize choice. Let's make HIV prevention and choice fashionable. Thank you to everybody. Enjoy the rest of the session.
Okay, let me also acknowledge Lillian Mareko, who's here, who's going to be providing closing remarks for us. So Lillian, thank you for being here. Colleagues, how should we do it? Would you like to use the podium or would you prefer the mics? Let's do the mics. Perfect. Okay. You want to start with the podium? So let's start. Let's start here at the end over here, and ask each of you to come in, introduce yourself, where you're from, and what does this topic of choice mean to you personally. Let's start there, and then we can unpack some themes. We have a couple mics.
Okay, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Claire Nampenja, and I work for the International Community of Women Living with HIV, Eastern Africa, from Uganda. So what choice means to me as a young woman? Choice means decision making. If there is a choice, I'll be able to make a sound, I'll be having a sound mind to make a decision on what I want. Because if there is no choice, meaning I would not have any other option but to go with what is available. And sometimes going with what is available, there is no continuity, there is no sustainability. So meaning if there is no choice, I will not continue with anything or with any product. So when you talk about HIV prevention, we have seen a lot of prevention measures that have been brought on board. We have the ring, we have LAN, we have Kabla, we have oral prep, we have condoms and so many others. But if they're there, but there is no room for me to choose, then meaning I will not be able to access it. And also with choice comes with having the product. Yes, is it available for me as a young person to access it? Is it available for the entire community to make sure that they make a decision on accessing them? So choice means a lot, but to me, it's more of decision making.
Thank you so much. So I missed my questions, and I love my fellow panelists here. They say they asked for the questions, therefore they got them. So in my usual element at home, I would just stand on the podium and give my address. But I shall oblige to Jira's protocol and say, thank you, madam, for the opening notes. Choice for me really means a lot of what you've summed up: availability, affordability, accessibility, but acceptability as well. So as a start, I can say choice means the service delivery models that we need to use have to align with the beneficiaries that we are intending to reach. We have seen how differentiated service delivery models actually can introduce choice and convenience. And these models are tried and tested, particularly when they are community and peer-led. But we've also seen how the choice of service delivery models can be a barrier to access. I sat in a session with young people yesterday, and we were talking about the potential of utilizing faith-based institutions. And they asked, is that where you think we go? So whatever population we are trying to reach, we really have to be practical about what works for them. Choice also means that when we accommodate recent advances, like we are talking a lot about long-acting injectables for HIV prevention, but we need to be thinking about what works in a randomized controlled trial might not work in terms of lived realities and where people actually live in a real world setting. What also works in an urban setting might not work in a rural setting where there is one nurse with minimal supervision. So choice cannot ignore the lived realities of our people, because choice will then fail, and that will be an indictment on us. Choice also means sustainability. And for me, sustainability has to be prioritized in light of the financial landscape that we find ourselves in. And this means we do need to invest with domestic funding in sustainable, high impact prevention options that offer choice, but we also need to be smart and very ruthless about our prioritization. And I'll come back to that as we expand. Thanks, Chira.
Good afternoon. My name is Grace Kumwenda. I work with AVAC. I'm based in Malawi, but I'm here sitting as a member of the African Women Prevention Community Accountability Board. So I'll start where she has left off. Because at this moment, almost in every meeting, you're going to hear the words prioritization. You're going to hear the word sustainability. And for me, as someone who sits with the community, one of the biggest concerns has been, are we not going to roll back to a situation whereby we are prioritizing one or two products? Who is making decisions around choice at country level? When we sit in the boardrooms, in our air-conned rooms, who is making these decisions? So from a community perspective, these are some of the concerns that we kind of worry about and think about. Because for me now, if you ask me what choice means, I work with young women every day. And for me, choice means agency. Ability for a young woman who is 18 years old, perhaps live in a very religious community, but being able to walk into a space and access services. For me, choice means the dignity for a woman who might be facing abuse in a home, failing to use oral daily prep because of fear of their partner, but being able to say there is an option for me to walk into a facility and access service. For me, choice actually means dignity. So for me, when I think about choice, it's not just about options, it's not just about the products. It's really about what it means to us as humanity. We might have all these options, all these choices, but if people are not feeling good enough to access those services and continue on them, we are not going to win on prevention. So for me, choice is bigger than just talking about options. Thank you.
Thank you to the panelists. My name is, I work with the African Sex Workers Alliance as the regional coordinator. And when you're talking about choice, for me, choice is power as a sex worker. And when I was invited to this panel, I reflected back from when I started doing sex work. That only used, so there was no choice. So you had to use a condom. And one of the things that we face as sex workers is harassment from clients. And most of the clients will refuse to use a condom. And even condom negotiation, sometimes to most of us sex workers, because of the way we do our work. Somebody will tell you, I'll give you more money and don't use a condom. So condom negotiation skills sometimes becomes very difficult. But for us sex workers, most of us will not agree. But when we are talking about choice, I'm very excited as a sex worker because for me, it's power. It's power to me. I'll go get my injection. I'll go have my prep at home. And then I go do my work. And I know I'm very well, I'm protected. So for me as a sex worker, when we are talking about choice, is power to me as a sex worker. I'm able to walk in majestically to that clinic with the information that I need, and I tell my healthcare provider, I know there's an injection, I know there's oral prep, I know there's a condom, but I want an injection. And I want an injection because it's powerful to me. When I have my injection for 6 months or for 2 months, I'm very, very comfortable that I have prevented myself from HIV. So if I want to prevent myself from pregnancy, I'll be able to negotiate with my client to use a condom. So when we are talking about choice as a sex worker, to me, is the power that I have as a sex worker, knowing that I have that product in my body and I can walk majestically, I can do my work with a lot of confidence and knowing that I have prevented myself from getting HIV. For me, is the power. Yes.
So colleagues, we heard power, availability, affordability, accessibility, dignity, all very powerful words. Thank you for sharing those opening reflections. Tembi, let me come back to you. Let's unpack some of these rationalization elements that you were getting to. We just had a fabulous, right before us, a session by AVAC and colleagues about all of the different choices we have in prevention. And the pipeline is rich, more options are coming. We don't have a choice problem, do we? Let's unpack that.
Thanks, Jira. I think we are going to have a choice problem when we start seeing newer interventions as magic bullets, and when we start using them to rubbish the existing, the tried and tested, as well as the most cost-effective prevention interventions like condoms. If we think lenacapavir is the only thing that is going to change the world, we are going to have a choice problem. So when I say we need to be ruthless with our prioritization, I mean, let us use even the newer prevention technologies like lenacapavir to revolutionize the entire prevention movement. Lenacapavir will only be 100% effective if people choose lenacapavir. I might want to be on the oral PrEP, somebody else might want to be on a condom, somebody else might want to choose another method. And people will only remain on it if they find it acceptable and accessible and aligned to their particular lifestyle. So we are only going to take away the issue of choice when, for instance, we don't integrate HIV prevention into general services. Then we are going to have limitations of choice. And if choice is about accessing services without fear, if choice is about choosing where you obtain care and even who provides that care, and if choice is about making sure it fits in with your lifestyle and choosing when to remain in care, we are really going to have to bridge the gap between innovation and impact and respecting the agency of the particular patient. So how we move forward and how we introduce integration. And for me, I think as a NAC CEO, when I define HIV prevention intervention, it's really starting to force us to think just beyond HIV. Our patients living with HIV are aging. They are starting to develop non-communicable diseases. This means every contact with a client at a health facility, at a community facility, even on a digital platform, needs to give them access to prevention, but also prevention from disease progression of other diseases like hypertension and diabetes. And if we don't think of prevention in the broader sense and seeing our patients holistically, we are going to limit choice. Thank you, Jara.
Grace, let me bring you in on this point. We talked about integrating HIV services. Let's hear from both Graces. And come in on this point about what is non-negotiable when you think about choice. Tammy mentioned policy. There are funding availability. Of course, there's access limitations. What are non-negotiable when we're thinking about manifesting choice?
I think several things. The starting point is to think at community level. One of the non-negotiables is information, accurate, non-judgmental information, because we cannot talk about choice but not thinking about how tangibly choice gets accessed. So the starting point is, do communities know what products are available? Because oftentimes we talk about this when communities do not know. There are moments we go into a community and say, have you ever heard about a dapivrin ring? And they know nothing about it. So the starting point is investments we make in communities to make sure that this information is out there. We are communicating about products. People know what HIV prevention options are available. Because when they know this information, they'll be able to go at facility level and ask for the service. So we cannot talk about demand generation if we do not address this. And just to mention, to say, I think with everything we've seen in this year, this is one of the most impacted field in terms of community services and information. Because when we're thinking about what to prioritize, community services get laid behind. So we need to think about how do we kind of double down on some of the information provision, demand creation, and all this information I'm talking about. Secondly, one of the other non-negotiable is the information that providers now provide at facility level. We might have these services, but if people walk in and are not being given choice-based counseling, we are not winning.
Yeah.
So we do need to start thinking about this from more like a 360 degrees approach. You have a community, you have the health system. How is the health system itself prepared to deliver choice? Are we training our healthcare workers enough? Is the provider communicating about choice? Are we able to provide resources for these options we're talking about? So when we're talking about global fund, we're talking about domestic resources, are we already thinking about how willing our governments able to invest in choice? So a lot of negotiables, but I think we need to be thinking about this holistically from both the health system, but also the individual.
That's so powerful, Grace. Grace, before I come to you, I just wanted to re-emphasize this point, because we think about choice as an individual decision or something that we can control, but you're so right about the health system limiting choice as well. So thank you very much. Grace, please.
Yes, just to add on what Grace said, I think also one of the non-negotiable is the entry point of how we start negotiate on how we make sure each and every HIV prevention tool get into the facility. And I like what the earlier speaker from SAC spoke about, like thinking that LAN will be the end game for HIV prevention. How do we start as the entry point of LAN? What are we telling people? Are we telling people that LAN is better because it's going for 6? It's because it's a long, it's an injection that is taking long, and we are not talking about other HIV prevention technologies that we've been using. So for me is what is the entry? What is the information that we are telling people as we are introducing the new HIV prevention tools, so that we make sure that people understand about all the other HIV prevention tools, and they understand. Also, another non-negotiable is resources to communities. So a lot of what we are talking about, these HIV prevention tools being used by communities, but where are we leaving these communities? The conversation is there, but where is the community? Are there resources for community, so that we as community are able to talk to our fellow communities about the new HIV prevention technology? Because one of the things I have realized from the community I come from is most of the sex workers have no information about the long-acting. Most of our communities just hear in conferences, but when you ask us in details, what does it mean? Most of us have no information. The next time you have, you'll hear that the government has introduced an injection, and they're asking sex workers to mobilize to go get the injection, but you don't have the information. So resources to communities, so that we can be able to mobilize our community, know the right information, mobilize our communities, and communities can be able to make the choice of what the community can be able to make informed choice. And maybe the other non-negotiable is affordability of these products and accessibility of these products. We might talk about them now because maybe the donor have prioritized LAN, they have prioritized CAB, but maybe as what happened earlier this year, we saw that the USAID pulled the funding. We had a case whereby sex workers were using the ring, and when the government, when USAID pulled resources, some of the sex workers remained with the ring. And so sex workers are asking us, you tell us to get this HIV prevention tools. Now we have a problem. We can't get somebody to remove the ring in our bodies because our healthcare facility is closed. We are talking about introducing, but what is the sustainability, affordability, accessibility, and ensuring that the community consistently get those prevention tools when we start enrolling on them? Yes.
Woo. Thank you. What I'm hearing from you, Claire, is this is a message to funders, to donors, to innovators that come and engage with us, educate us, partner with us, not when the product is in country, before, early on, and get that early buy-in and be sustainable in that kind of partnership. So thank you so much. Claire, let me bring you in. You and I are the youth representatives on this panel, and mostly you. But so I want to ask you from the perspective of young people, what do young people need to manifest choice? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, and then we're going to go to the audience for some questions.
Okay, thank you so much. What young people need is mindset change. Yes, mindset change where we have been doing different activities around in the community to ensure that young people access these services. But a lot of myths and misconceptions around HIV prevention is really high. Even when products are there, young people still have the myths and misconceptions around the ring will get lost in my body. When I take the injection, I will not give birth. It will affect my entire system. So if we change the minds of young people to accept the HIV prevention services, to accept them, taking them, it will really yield. Another thing is access. In Uganda today, a few facilities are offering DVR, the prevent vaginal ring, but a young person in a different region might not travel to Kampala, to the main city, to access the ring. So meaning if I might need it, yes, choice is there, but the supplies are not enough, and they're not there. So meaning I'll not be able to access it. Another thing is accountability. As the service providers that are giving these services to the young people, to the community, are they accountable to monitoring what is being provided to the young person? How are they accessing the service? We have seen sustainability has been affected, where I get my ring today, but tomorrow no one is reaching out to me to find out how I'm doing. Did I get side effects on the ring? I got an injection. No one is considered. What is considered is the targets. Targets. How many young person have received PrEP this month? How many received the ring? So at the end of the day, it's about how many access this, but how are the people doing, those that access the service. So if we are accountable to the lives of young people in accessing these HIV prevention measures, it really yields continuity and sustainability, and also acceptability. Because if the service is there, but then I have not been educated enough on how to access it, on the different side effects it will cause to my body, at the end of the day, I will not be able to go for it. Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, let's keep it there. Let's hear what the audience have to say, and then we'll come back for one final round of some reflections. Okay, colleagues, so the floor is yours. Let's get some hands up. And we have someone with the microphone, hopefully, yes? Let's go here to the front, and then we'll go to the center.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Kwata Chimsana. I am an Choice for Choice from APA. So I want to ask a question, right? But this question will be diverse to everyone, right? Let's just say I'm a young person that knows nothing about HIV prevention, right? When ViiV launches their new product, do they have steps on what the community or how they want the community to enforce their products? So if you guys enforce LEN, let's say you guys produce LEN, how do you want the community to market that LEN? Do you guys incorporate the community in your decision making? Because I heard you, Sis Bosch, saying about speaking about sharing the information and having it as a shared goal. How are you sharing it with the community? Do you have it in your guidelines where we're like, this is what we want the communities to work on, this is what we want the communities to advocate on? Because at the end of the day, we as the community can do so much. Like, we can hear that there's LEN, but how can we advocate for that, right? And we also spoke about it on breakfast today, where we're just like, there are so many choice platforms, there are so many there's so many baskets in the choice, so many products in the choice, but how are we able to advocate for that in the community? We are influencers of change. What do we say to the young people? Because the young people will obviously follow what I choose to follow, but what do I say to the community based on what ViiV wants me to say or whatever the company wants me to say, you know? And also, what I was asking about choice was that, you know, in the let's bring it down back to basics, right? We are speaking about a community of people that only know about oral prep, right? They only know about oral prep. How do we convince them that this is what can work for them in the long run? So, for example, for me, when I started injectable contraceptives in the bum, I was like, I'm going to do the 3 months one because every single time I have a holiday, I know I have an entry space, then I will go to the clinic and I will be able to get my injection. So can we do the same information when it comes to Cabaret, when it comes to Len? You know, that should also be in the guidelines. And also, when you're speaking about community, we need to speak about community in simple terms, in ways that the community can understand. How does this benefit them? How does this work for them? How does this ensure that they have a better future? Use Len, guys, because it is convenient for you. You can go every single time you have every semester. When in June, you can go. In December, you can go. You know, we must use simple terms in ways to advocate for the prevention measures. That's number one.
Thank you.
And then number two, oh, sorry.
That was number one?
Yes, that was number one. Oh, also, no, but I just wanted to know also, in terms of prevention, like how are we able to incorporate the disabled community, people that cannot hear, people that cannot see, people that are not able to access the community, are not able to work? We know that personally in South Africa, we know that there are many communities where they are not able to go to the clinics as frequently. They'll miss their date. What is what is the solution for them? Like, are you guys going to go to their homes to be able that they access prevention? Because prevention also includes inclusivity. We can't leave people behind when we're moving forward. Evolution means we bring everyone with us.
Thank you so much. Two really good questions. Mongile, I'll ask you to come in. Let's take a couple more questions. Just one quick clarifying point. Lenacapavir is Gilead Sciences. Cabalet is ViiV. So we'll hear from Sibongile about that. But either one, you see we have options. Okay, let's go to the center. Take a couple more questions. Yes, yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm also a champion for choice from APA, South Africa. And I also have just a follow-up question on what you just presented. So when the dappering was introduced in our country, I use social media to advocate, right? So I use people about what's happening in the pipeline, what's coming up, what's in, etc., etc. So at that moment when dappering was happening, Auntie was telling us about the differences between choice and option. So I was also using you've read Raphael, by the way. So I was also using Auntie's teachings in my social media channels, right? So I was also telling them, you know, this is what choice is, this is what options is. So this happened. I told them this is what choice is, and then fortunately we had the ring in our, like 5 kilometers from our way from our place. Ne? And then Trump happened. Then we didn't have the ring kilometers away from my place. Now, I lost trust from those young people. Even when I come from this conference, they won't trust me. If I say, guys, next year, February, we're going to have the DPP. It has your contraception and this and this and this. They won't trust me because 10 months away, I told them that we had DPP, and they accessed DPP actually. But unfortunately, some of them came back to me and they told me that actually, we're just given this DPP and we're not told how to insert it. We're not told what side effects, we're not told anything about it. We're just given this DPP because we got there and said, hey guys, we heard about the DPP and we want it. So they were just given the DPP because they heard of it, not because they were explained to it what it does. So now what's going to happen to the ring? What's going to happen to the lane? What's going to happen to the injectable? What's going to happen to the rest of the prevention methods that we have in the pipeline if we as the people that work with the community lose trust in the community as the community?
Okay, thank you so much. Let's take one more question here from this side of the room. The lady in the white shirt. Yeah. Quick one, huh? So we can get responses from the audience.
Thank
From
you.
the panelists.
Actually, mine is not a question, it's an addition. When I hear choice, to me, choice means, oh, sorry. My name is Ruth Ninsima. I work with the International Community of Women living with HIV Eastern Africa from Uganda. When I hear about choice, what comes in my mind is about male involvement. Where is this man that is supposed to support me and journey with me on this journey of choice? We had engagements recently, and one of those local community women asked, what if this ring is small and I have an able-bodied man down there? What is going to happen? But is there a way, for instance, when we are introducing this, is there a way we can engage men so that by the time this woman is taking on the ring, the man already knows that actually there is this on the market? Or even this man is encouraging the woman, I heard about this, do you think we can try it out? If it is about a condom, if we, the women are empowered to use, and we need the condom, but our men don't know the benefits, how are we going to be able to engage them to convince them that actually condom works and it's 99% effective? Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. Okay, so 4 really good questions, panelists. Let's try to get some answers from each of you. Simogile, let me start with you on this question, and then we'll start with Grace and come back down to Claire.
Yeah. I'd like to thank the question that was asked about how do we ensure that the community is involved and informed. And the start for me here starts with the power of partnership. And as you said, this is not about one product. It's about saying, how do we ensure the power of partnership embraces knowledge sharing, scientific information, as well as an understanding of what options are available. And that power of partnership then says to us, we as innovators and we as drug makers are very much dependent on the community to inform us in terms of understanding what are the unmet needs in the community. What is it that the community is not happy with? What is it that the community needs more information about? And then with that actually guides us to say, we're doing good here, we're falling short here. So we need to really embrace the power of partnership and ensure that in embracing the power of partnership, we come together to really face one common goal, and that is ensuring that we succeed in our fight against HIV/AIDS.
Thank you so much. Okay, Claire, Grace, let me start with you to take any one of those questions that you heard and give us some closing reflections.
Okay, so on the question about community involvement, from where I come from, our organization is community-led, is led by sex workers and for sex workers. So one of the things is we have a lot of learning from oral prep, from the ring. So how do we use that learning to inform even learn CAB rollout so that the mistakes that were done before are not done in other rollouts? So we also need to ask donors to check on that because there's a lot of learning in the previous rollouts that have been done for other PrEP. Also, you spoke about, for example, the way you have an injection for family planning. And for me, looking at it is the risk perception amongst us. and also ensuring that the community we work with understand the risk perception as a person. So if I know I have a risk, for example, as a woman, I use a family planning method. Why do I use it? Because I don't want to get more children. So if I'm also a sex worker and I don't want to acquire HIV, why do I need a HIV prevention method? Because I don't want to acquire HIV. So the risk perception amongst you as a person, and ensuring that the community understands the risk perception that each and every community has. And finally, we need to stop talking about targets and talking about the person, because for me, when it comes to rollout of new HIV prevention, that has been the biggest risk. It's targets, 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 and we don't talk to our communities about side effects. I know when we are rolling out the product is not in a clinical setup, so we can't be able to monitor those things. But can we move from being target oriented, but looking at the person, and also looking at how best can we roll out, even in real world setting, how do we better roll it out for the person, not for targets? Yes.
I think I would like to comment on Siviwe's question around how do we build back trust. I think this year has shown us the cost of politics. Politics can be a good thing if it leads us where we need to go, because that's where visioning comes from. But we've also learned that it could take us backwards. And unfortunately, it is the community, the individuals, who suffer the brunt of some of these decisions. So I think what I could say then is for us at community level to say, how do we go back to the community with the same information that I talked about initially? Have honest conversations. We can't lie to say, we think things will look better at this point. But we need to come back in those circles that we sit in and talk about the realities of what is happening and say what is possible and what is not possible. We've talked about the issue of resilience. I've been challenged this morning around the word resilience to say sometimes we use it to sugarcoat a lot of stuff. But we need to be able to still say, as young women, as key populations, how do we move forward with the information we have right now? Maybe bring in healthcare workers, bring in policymakers, and start having conversations around this. I saw a theme around rebuilding, rethinking, and arising for HIV prevention. And it's now more important than ever before to start working with communities. We cannot pull off our feet on the gas pedal. Now more than ever, we need to double down on the efforts that we have. And that said, I think for me, just finishing off from what Grace said, the people-first programming is very important. I'll finish by how I started. Right now, we are making decisions on cost basis. How much does this cost? Let's not forget that there are trade-offs. People make decisions based on what works for them. They will not just make decisions on it's 6 months long. They will make decisions around what does my lifestyle look like? So choice needs to continue. Whilst resources are shrinking, let's not put choice off the ladder. This is something that needs to be prioritized as we move forward.
Thank you so much. I'll also take on a few questions and maybe use an example of a meeting like this where I sat when CAB LA was to be introduced into the arsenal of prevention tools that we have. So we sat as policymakers with all our stakeholders, and the question was, so who should get access to CAB LA? And the hands of the Tembis and the senior managers and the executives went up, and we said, female sex workers, etc., etc. And the leader of the women's sector in South Africa said, Chair, your question is wrong. The way you should be dealing with this is to say, let's go into communities, empower communities about what is this cabotegravir, what are the pros and cons, what are the benefits, what does it cost, how accessible is it, what will be the side effects, and let us as communities make the choice. So the question, my young lady, is no longer what ViiV wants you to say, it's about us recognizing you as equal and strategic partners from inception until the post-implementation rollout. When I look at the amount of research that's been presented through communities, community-led monitoring, community-led research at this very conference, I don't even feel qualified to tell you what to say. Communities need to tell us what makes sense to them. That is called respecting agency. And moving forward, that is the way we need to go forward about it. So I think from a scientific basis, we need to be very clear around the information that we need to impart to yourselves so that when you speak to your communities, you speak in a social media language that they understand. I'm a TikTok mom, I'm a dancer. So I feel you, I understand you. We also need, I think, you know, when we spread the U equals U message, it's very much based on stopping HIV transmission. There is a discussion that needs to be had around this divide we've created around prevention and treatment. U equals U is a prevention method. And U equals U normally talks about transmission and not so much about acquisition. Once again, I say, I don't know that as a clinician, I know how best to say that, but I know that my communities that led South Africa to start introducing ARVs 20 years ago can do a much better job than I can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Tembi. Let's Claire, you have the final word.
Thank you so much. My final word on, I think someone asked a question on how the community can come on board to make sure that they are aware about what is happening. So I think it starts with us as the community. Yes, so many times we are waiting for someone to give us the space. We are waiting for following up on what is happening to us. But how are we taking it up to us that if I need the drugs, I'll know where to access it. If I'm not okay psychologically, I need a counselor, I need